Anti-occupation NGO B'Tselem has announced it will no longer refer complaints by Palestinians to the IDF for investigation. I met B'Tselem's director, Hagai to understand why.
We have more experience than any other Israeli organization in good faith, trying to give the military authorities to prove themselves that they are indeed sincere and serious with regard to establishing accountability. But after hundreds of cases with results that more often than not result in impunity, we had to come to the conclusion that this is a system that does not provide accountability, does not provide justice, and in fact serves as an effective whitewash.
The IDF claims it opened an investigation into the Hebron shooting incident before the B'Tselem video was made public. Some might argue it doesn't need B'Tselem at all.
Whether indeed an investigation was opened before or after the video was published and the relation between the two, I'll let others speculate with regard to that. It is true that the responsibility, the duty to investigate, the legal responsibility to investigate has nothing to do with B'Tselem. The authorities have a responsibility to investigate when there are suspicions of wrongdoing by Israeli soldiers or police officers.
The IDF has proven it intends to pursue the prosecution of Sergeant Azaria ferociously despite intense public criticism. Does that not show it's capable of acting by itself?
Hebron is really such an exceptional case. The video footage has been so clear, and the attention both locally and internationally to the case, I think, has really made it impossible for the system to whitewash that case.
In your report, you claim that in the absence of B'Tselem, Palestinians have no other avenue available to file complaints against the military system. Do you stand by that?
The system is built in such a way that it cannot accept complaints directly from Palestinians. It has to come through a human rights organization or through a lawyer or in some other way or fashion. So of course, while we are calling also on the Palestinian public not to file complaints, every family has agency to make up its own opinion, and they can file complaints.
Is it possible that in the instances where no investigation was opened or an investigation was closed, that it's because there was a genuine difficulty in getting evidence, or because the allegations were themselves fabricated or exaggerated?
The 700 cases that our report relates to are just a fraction of the total number of cases. These are just the cases in which we have performed a sufficiently thorough investigation that has established a serious suspicion through cross-checking testimonies by a number of witnesses, collecting evidence, and so on and so forth. So you can only imagine the number of cases that haven't even reached the level of filing a complaint because there were lack of data.
Are you at peace with future possible violations going unpunished because you decided to undermine a, by your contention, limited legal mechanism?
The system has undermined itself. It's not B'Tselem which is undermining the system. What we are doing is exposing the truth about the system. This is a system that hasn't provided justice for a generation, and the belief that it will suddenly start to do so in the absence of a departure from business as usual by a human rights organization is a false hope.
The Turkel Commission, which includes international rapporteurs, came to the conclusion that Israel's mechanisms for examining allegations of violations of international humanitarian law generally comply with Israel's obligations under international law. What does B'Tselem know that the Turkel Commission doesn't?
With all respect to the Turkel Commission, no one has first-hand direct experience for such a long time as B'Tselem does in dealing with these issues. I think a lot of hope was put at some stage on the Turkel Committee recommendations, and I think that the years that have passed since that committee made its recommendations and the lack of implementation of them just tells another chapter in this unfortunate story.
On a slightly different matter, in light of B'Tselem's receipt of a majority of its funding from foreign governments to lobby Israel on its security policy, would it be fair to characterize B'Tselem as a tool of European foreign policy?
We're very proud of our funding, both international funding and local funding. The issue of the occupation is not a domestic Israeli issue. It is an issue of great international concern, which is also true with regard to human rights in general. Human rights in general always know no border.
You disagree, but do you understand the concerns of people who are worried about the receipt of funding from foreign governments in order to lobby a government on its policy?
Actually, I don't. Our funding is completely transparent, and I think it's only natural and something that we should all support, that there is international attention and is international support in an attempt to improve the human rights situation in the occupied territories.